2 minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Thirty seconds till broadcast. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Let me tell you, the response to the show has been absolutely amazing. People can't believe that a young conservative millennial continues to fight for constitutional principles, traditional values, and talks about issues that some are even afraid to talk about. But we do it because we understand the importance of this. And now we're seeing it absolutely blow up all across the nation.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yeah, buddy, that's what I'm talking about. It's the Voice of Reason. It's a whatever today is, Thursday, the pre-Friday celebration. It goes on way too fast. Welcome into the program. Boy, do we have a lot to get to today. Broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the flagship station of KQAM, all over the country on radio, TV, live streaming, podcasting. Doesn't matter where you're at, however you may be watching or listening. Thanks for it. We appreciate it very much so. We are getting closer. You can feel the intensity now with election time. You can feel it in the air. Something's in the air, at least. Maybe it's COVID. I don't really know. But something's in the air, and I know that some are pretty excited about it. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit. We have some campaign updates coming from President Donald Trump and Joe Biden tonight. Both of them seem to be doing either rallies or town halls. The media upset that Trump's doing a rally the same time Biden's doing a rally. Mad at some media outlets for wanting to cover Trump over Joe Biden. Typical. So that's going on, since tonight would have been debate number 2, but that's not going to happen. So we'll talk about that here in just a little bit as well. Plus the latest with Hunter Biden. Say, what? Is it legit? Is it real? We'll get into some of that here as well. But speaking of Joe Biden, we do have to get an update from the campaign trail from Joe Biden. I mean, he's hard at work. He's actually gotten out of his basement a little bit, although they're going back into the basement, into the bunker, because a few members of his staff did test positive for COVID-19. Convenient, right? When he says he wants to kind of coast, as we talked about with the story yesterday about the coasting through the rest of the election, because, well, Trump's just shooting himself in the foot and they're up in the polls, so why try and rock the boat? So conveniently, him and Kamala Harris's staff have had some positive tests for COVID, and now they're just canceling events and they're going into the bunker. So Joe Biden, how you doing, buddy? You feeling good? Feeling good?
I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts.
All right. Making sure. Welcome into the show. We have a lot to get to today. Appreciate it very much. Let's swing over and talk about some election stuff. What do you say?
Election 2020.
And I'm excited if you are watching the Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, also on the website at HooserReason.com. You can see we don't use this camera very often, especially for the national broadcast, as we have a great friend here in studio from the 4th Congressional District right here in the state of Kansas, our very own congressman for our district, Congressman Ron Estes. Congressman, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Andy?
It's doing really good. I really appreciate you coming in. It's a busy time. I love this. This is our Super Bowl, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. If you go through the election process and just so many things happening, and it's a great time to be out and engaged, and so many people get more excited and involved.
Have you heard from people on the street the excitement? I mean, I'm helping one of the state reps around here, Leo Delperdang, and I've been knocking on doors and seeing the intensity, the excitement, the Trump flags, the yard signs, seeing people wanting to actually talk to you on the side of the street and on their doorstep. I've never seen this type of energy, I think, going into an election before. People get excited at times, but this is a whole nother level.
Well, and I think part of that's just so many of the governors are shut down so many of the states, and human beings are social creatures, and we want to get out and about, and you know, they're excited that President Trump's recovered. I mean, it gives anybody hope that has been infected with the coronavirus, and knowing that you can recover from that. President's, you said, back on the campaign trail, and actually I was involved in, he called Leader McCarthy earlier this week. I was with Leader McCarthy, and the president said he's going to do one rally a day this week, and 2 rallies a day next week, and 3 rallies a day in the 3rd week before the election. Yeah,
this guy is crazy. I don't know how he has this much energy. I mean, we've heard from the 20-year-old staffers and interns in the White House staff that are like, I can't keep up with this guy. I can't. And I mean, that just shows the enthusiasm he has, the excitement, and no matter how many rallies he does, he's still going to get 20,000 people to show up.
That's right. And yeah, that's a small number, 20,000.
Yeah, exactly.
One that's been limited because of social distancing, quote unquote.
It's unbelievable. Do you believe, let's talk about the election for a second. I want to get to yours here in Kansas as well, but let's talk about on the national front. The polls show, the media shows that Joe Biden's up in all these swing states, that Joe Biden's leading nationally, that Joe Biden has all these pathways to victory. Donald Trump is limited on the number of pathways that he has to victory winning these certain states. With the amount of turnout that we have, even when he was in the hospital with COVID, and we saw people doing boat parades and doing drive-by parades and actually showing up at the hospital in thousands right out front supporting him, I don't see that enthusiasm for Joe Biden. I don't see how these polls are accurate in any way.
Yeah, no, there's not. I mean, you have to discount the national polls completely, because you end up so many parts of the country that are so heavily Democrat that when they show up in polls, it distorts the national poll. You have to look at the Electoral College, which is the rules that we play by. I mean, that's the way our elections work for president, and go through that process. And you know, to back up a little bit, I mean, things were going the president's way through the summer and the end of the fall. But you think back, it's kind of slowed down the last 3 weeks. And think back to 3 weeks ago. 19 days from today, we did not know who was going to be nominated to the Supreme Court. We did not know how the president was going to perform in his first debate. We did not know how the vice president was going to perform. We didn't know the president was going to get sick and recover. Yeah. So 19 days from today's election. So think of all the things we didn't know 19 days ago, and how many more things when the president gets out and does rally after rally and gets all of our foot soldiers out and get all of us elected.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing to see what we learn in the next few weeks as well going in. I mean, we always talk about an October surprise. I think the Supreme Court was definitely one, and the fact that now we have a date on when they're going to vote and go through the panels here, which I think is going to help as well. I mean, Donald Trump, as you mentioned, I mean, he doesn't hold back at a rally. It's like him just chatting with his best buddy across the bar, and he'll just say whatever, and the media loves to pick up and run with it. Is that going to, you think, help or hurt when it comes to not the presidential race, but the House seats across the nation and the Senate? I mean, I think that we're going to be able to maintain the Senate. I'm really hoping we can actually flip the House in many districts and actually have a majority there as well.
Yeah. I'm fully expect the president to be reelected. I expect Republicans to maintain control of the Senate, although they may end up being 1 or 2 seats fewer than they have now. Yeah. And we're going to gain seats. The Republicans are going to gain seats in the House. There's just so many great districts where we have great candidates that are running. I just with the slowdown the last couple of weeks, it may be tough for us to get the momentum up, to get the majority, but we're going to pick up seats. Just like today, when we took office beginning of last year, 2019, Nancy Pelosi had 235 Democrats.
Right.
She's now has 2 fewer Democrats because one got beat in a special election and one switched parties, which almost never happens. You never have a person switch from the majority party to the minority party. You do have about once every 10 years or so somebody switches parties. But to get out of the Democrat Party, that all they want to do is they want to talk about destroying and defunding the police and dismantling our cultural institutions versus the Republican message of, how do we restore our way of life and rebuild America and renew the American dream.
Yeah. It's wild how distracted they want to be and focus on the ridiculous things. I mean, I can only imagine how frustrated you've been, among with others, banging your head against the wall in the House, trying to get COVID relief funding out there, trying to get a stimulus package out, and they want to talk about first off, Nancy Pelosi making a comment about the Supreme Court hearings and trying to stop them. Not sure where she has any ground saying that because the House doesn't have anything to do with that, does it?
Yeah, that's the sad part of what the House has been wasting their time on when we could be doing so many things for the country. They were talking about impeachment as soon as the president was elected. And first it was discussions about the Russians. And then it was, he rigged the election in 2016. And then it was Ukraine. And then it was collusion. And, now they're coming back and trying to say that, he shouldn't have nominated somebody to the Supreme Court. And that's not an impeachable offense. That's his job. He's supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, it's what he does. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it perfect, is that, your time doesn't stop just because it's election season. You're still there. Even if he loses, he has until December to choose to do so, which I think then in that kind of gap, then you can decide, maybe we should hold off a little bit. But right now he's still president, and it's still the Senate's job to do the hearings and confirm, and it sounds like that's going to happen. Yeah. And that's a big victory.
And that's the part. The president has a job to nominate. Yeah. The Senate has a job to analyze and advise and consent, and that's the way we set it up. And both of them are working to do their job, and we'll move forward.
Yeah. Let's talk about the COVID relief right now, because you guys have been trying to do something. President Trump just last week said that we were going to halt until after the election, then said, if you give me a bill that just gives the $1,200 stimulus to Americans and maybe some small business or whatever, he's like, I'll sign that. Let's make it happen. Where are we with this? Are we going to have any chance to get something like this done?
So go back a little bit. This spring we were able to work in a bipartisan fashion, pass 4 different bills, able to focus on, how do we address testing? We do the vaccine development, which has been phenomenal. Yeah. The Paycheck Protection Program, which has been great. Getting the $1,200 checks out. So we agreed to do all of those things. Once the election season really got geared up, then it became a political game. Sure. And Speaker Pelosi's not been negotiating in good faith, in my opinion, from the standpoint of, they threw out this bill at the end of May, early June, and they called it a relief bill. But in reality, it was all the old messages that the Democrats have been talking about for years. Talking about the Green New Deal provisions, bailing out union pensions, this money for this special interest, reforming all of these policies around the Labor Department and for food stamps and other programs, right, instead of focusing on relief. And so what that's done is it's made the negotiations difficult, if not impossible to do, because of the gamesmanship. And so I think the president was right in saying, okay, let's stop talking about this big bill because it's not going anywhere, but let's focus on some targeted things, focus on stimulus checks, focus on extending the time frame to sign up for a paycheck protection loan. Yeah. And focus on some aviation industry support, which has obviously been hurt very badly.
Aviation's been ridiculous. I mean, they were down during the peak of this COVID thing. They were down like 98%, weren't they?
Yeah, it really was. And it was we were still flying then, going back and forth to D.C., although only about once every couple of weeks. And so it was amazing to see so few people on an airplane and so few people in the airport.
Actually stretch out again, right?
You could really stretch out in some and have rows all to yourself, not just one row. And so trying to help out. I mean, I've been working with one of the Democrat members, who's Rick Larson, who's the chair of the aviation subcommittee. He's from Seattle. He's from the Washington area, and one of the things we're trying to look at is how do we help. We call our bill the Aviation Manufacturing Jobs Protection Act, making sure that the federal government, if a company looks like they're going to have to lay off 25% of their workforce, they can apply and get the federal government to help pay half of the payroll.
Sure.
So that the employee stays on the payroll, the company pays half the payroll, federal government pays part of it, and at the end of the day, the skilled workforce is still there, ready to work and move forward.
Wow. We're talking with Congressman Ron Estes from the 4th Congressional District here in the state of Kansas. We're getting some comments of people living out of the state saying, I want Ron Estes as my representative. This is the kind of fighting that we need to actually make happen. We got about a minute before we have to take a break, but just as a teaser, you're on the Ways and Means Committee, which means you get to deal with the budget. You're the former state treasurer here in the state of Kansas, which means that's one of the reasons why you went up there, to fight for the budget and actually try and get these numbers down. We're not anywhere within budget right now, are we?
No, it's really sad. I mean, we deficit. Our national debt's now up to $27 trillion, and this year, with all the COVID relief that we added on top of what was a deficit, we're over $3 trillion this year, and we've got to have a serious discussion. I used to say that we're spending to maintain our lifestyle and mortgaging our kids' and grandkids' future, but now it's really, we need to start talking about our grandkids and great-grandkids, because it's just so much money to pay back.
It's stretching out so much. Were we on I guess we got to do this when we come back, but when we come back, we'll talk about, were we on maybe a decent course to get on track? I mean, Donald Trump had tried to nickel and dime and save some money here and there, and then all this stuff happened, and we ended up spending a $3 trillion stimulus package. We'll talk about that when we come back. The appropriations process, did we actually get any appropriations bills done, or was it just a major omnibus bill? We'll talk about all that and more coming up here. It is a Thursday, the pre-Friday celebration here on The Voice of Reason. So much to get to in so little time. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on The Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with The Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website.
Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hoosier Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HoosierReason.com. For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hoosier Media Network, visit us on the website at HoosierReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hoosier Media Network. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Thanks for hanging out with us today on radio, TV, live streaming, podcasting, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Which, by the way, do me a favor. So I don't know if it's just a glitch on my end or if Facebook's acting up because, they've been acting up lately with the whole censoring different articles and stuff. I don't know, but I wasn't able to share it out to all the pages that we normally do. So if you want to, you can find us on HoosierReason.com. We got the YouTube Live on there. But on the Facebook Live, just go to my page, Andy Hooser. You can find me. If you're not friends with me, you're more than welcome to friend me on there. I usually friend people unless they look, scantily clad, which you get a lot of those spams going on there. But you can friend me on there. And just say howdy. Just maybe message me, say that you're a listener, so at least know that you're not a bot trying to friend me. Although I want to be friends with robots as well. We are in the AI technology age too, right? Anyways, you can go on there and share it out. Share the Facebook pages out there. Also on the podcasting, we appreciate it very much at HoosierReason.com and all of the favorite podcasting platforms. We're here with Congressman Ron Estes in studio with us from the 4th Congressional District here in Kansas. And let's talk about, real quickly, being on the Ways and Means Committee, let's talk about the appropriation process. I remember talking to you about a year or two ago, I want to say, 2 years ago, and we had talked about the appropriations process and the struggle because there are, 11, 12 appropriations bills usually that would go through instead of an omnibus, just large lump sum bill that Barack Obama had loved to do during his 8-year reign. Are we any better? Because that year we got like 5 or 6 of them done, but that was about it.
So we're really not any better. And it's sad. It's been 20, 25 years since we've gradually got into this horrible state of doing this process. Instead of focusing on specifics, passing a bill dealing with Department of Agriculture or energy and water bills and the legislative budget. And so in the last 12 years, there's only been 1 year where we did one budget, and that was during the Zika virus. We did the Health and Human Services budget on time through both chambers, signed by the president.
Right.
And then, 2 years ago, we were able to get several, 4 or 5 of them done. It wasn't quite done by October 1st, but we're able to get some of those passed and moving forward. But the sad part about doing huge mega bills like this is just all the garbage that gets added into it. So it becomes so big, everybody knows it's going to pass. So the junk legislation, the bridges to nowhere, the kind of crappy things that wouldn't get support normally get thrown in there by somebody who has some leadership role or something.
Just to spend some money just because they want it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a horrible waste of money. And you end up having to make those hard choices of, well, do we shut the government down again because of all the crap that's in it, or do we push forward with and vote for it just so we can keep the government open and make sure some of the important things that the government does still gets funded, making sure the Defense Department's funded and critical departments, Health and Human Services, and others.
Sure. And President Trump or any president can't do a line item veto. I mean, we don't have that ability right now where we could say, you know what? No, we don't need $20 million going to studying how frogs, make their noise at the end of the day. We don't need to do that, but we don't have that ability. So it's like you mentioned, either all or nothing right now, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's kind of bad. We went from a state of having earmarks, 10, 20 years ago, with that was being abused in terms of people undercover members of Congress were spending money on spec projects. And so we've shut that off, but the pendulum swung too far the other way. And now we appropriate as much money, but then bureaucrats in one of the agencies dictate where that money goes. And we need to swing that pendulum back a little bit more, use openness and transparency, make sure that we focus on what are the right priorities, what am I willing to recommend and support, and then what am I willing to vote for as well.
Yeah. We got to take a bottom of the hour break here. But when we come back, real quickly, I want to talk about the process because I get a lot of heat from progressives on the other side of the aisle when they're like, we have like 80% of our budget going towards the military and all we spend is military spending. And that's not true. Because we do have what they don't understand is the difference between mandatory spending and discretionary spending. And we may have 60% of the discretionary spending towards military, but as a budget as a whole, we only have about 20%. So I want to kind of break that down and make sure that I'm not just talking, like crazy, like some progressives claim that we do on the right side of the aisle. So we'll do that when we come back here. One more segment with the Congressman. We appreciate his time very much. Busy as we get into election season and what's going on in D.C. Stay right here on The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
The Hooser Media Network is way more than just the voice of reason. It's your source to find numerous different online talk shows, podcasts, TV, and radio programs, all in one simple online location for you. From political talk to health talk to whatever you may be interested in, we're here for you. And I tell you, it's growing every day. Catch Tracy Maxfield with her podcast, Engage, Educate, and Empower, discussing mental health issues in children and teenagers. From bullying, teenage suicide, addiction, ADHD, and so much more, learn from Tracy and her guests about symptoms, signs, and ways to talk to your children, plus so much more. Having battled depression, being the author of the internationally acclaimed book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and being a retired nurse, Tracy is kind of the go-to on the subject. Make sure to find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, along with her website at tracymaxfield.com. Also, make sure to tune into the weekly podcast, Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy. Taking that next big leap of faith is hard. Trying to write a book, maybe struggling with a relationship, looking to take that next big career step. What's stopping you? There's a lot of big questions there, and they're questions that Rachel and Shannon want to help with you each and every week. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll on any of your favorite podcasting sites and on Facebook and YouTube. All of these shows and a heck of a lot more can be found on the Hooser Media Network Facebook and YouTube channels. Make sure to follow and subscribe to check them out today. Follow all the shows, and if you have any inquiries, check us out at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be. upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hooser Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network.
When Reason Meets Radio. You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into the show. Thanks for hanging out with us today. It's a Thursday, the pre-Friday celebration. Trying to cram that 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag. Trying to rebrand the millennial generation, one radio listener at a time. And we do it each and every day right here on the show. Radio, TV, live streaming all over the country. Our podcasts have hit, just this month, have hit 38 states, which is awesome. So thank you for that. We're continuously growing each and every day. You can always follow us on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. We are on Parler. We're also on Minds.com. All of them at Hooser Reason. Just find us at Hooser Reason. You can also go to the website at HooserReason.com, sign up for the newsletter, watch the live streaming, the podcasting. We have the survey on there for the monthly survey. We have our blog up there, all that good jazz. Make sure to sign up and become a Hoosier-holic as well. Got a few minutes here. One more segment with Congressman Ron Estes, which thank you for sticking around. One more segment. We appreciate that. I know you're a busy guy. How often do you go back in D.C.? About every week or so?
So typically we're scheduled 3 weeks a month to be in D.C.
Okay.
But during COVID's had changed that a little bit. And in October during election years, we're typically not back in D.C. for votes, which allows the politicians to go out and campaign more often.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about it before, but you're feeling great. I'm very confident with your district here. We're a predominantly red district. The Democrat I haven't heard a whole lot about. The last time she ran, it was in the primary, and how badly you beat the Democrat in the last election was how bad she got beat in that primary. So I'm not too concerned. We never take anything for granted, but you've been rock solid in D.C. I think, as far as I'm aware, and everybody that I've talked to, they're very happy with what you've done. And we're getting messages on here that, they want you to be their representative in their districts all over the country. Yeah. So thank you for what you do, first off.
Thank you. That's great. A lot of our focus is just making sure you do the right thing and we'll get the right results. So, over the last 3.5 years, we focused on right legislation, the right committee work, the right constituent services, and building a campaign organization. And so a lot of the message that when we talk with folks, we want to make sure that, people ask, well, why wouldn't I reelect Ron Estes for all the good things he does? So
exactly.
That's a lot of what we talk about during the campaign is this is the things we've done, whether it's a USMCA trade deal or the deal with China, focusing on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and how great the economy was going before so many of the governors shut down their states because of the COVID-19. So that's a lot of it. It's just talking about the good things that we've accomplished.
And there's a lot of good accomplishments that we can actually be proud of for Republicans and all Republicans that have been working hard on this. Real quickly, let's talk about the breakdown of the federal budget, because again, some people just don't believe me when I say there's a discretionary spending, there's a mandatory spending. I'm not personally a fan of having a mandatory spending category that you don't even touch, you never reform. It goes up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% every single year. And when you try and say, hey, maybe we should slow it down once because it's bankrupting us and let's grow it by 2% instead of 4%, the left loses their minds and say, oh my gosh, you're cutting it and you want people to die in the streets. When they try and say military spending is 80% of the budget, 60% of the budget, and we're like, no, that's discretionary spending. But when you look at the budget as a whole, military is only 18 to 20% of the budget. Am I right on this, or, I mean, is there more to this?
Yeah, so it really is disingenuous, the amount of things that people talk about. So, right now, if we look at what we typically spend, if you set aside all the COVID-19 spending that we've done, on a typical year, 2/3 of the spending comes on the mandatory items. And when we talk about mandatory items, we talk about things that happen automatically. So the first big piece of that's entitlements, things like Medicaid. Where if your income's below a certain level, you're qualified for it no matter what. Same thing with food stamps and temporary assistance for needy families. A lot of those social welfare programs are automatic if you're below that income. And then the other category that's also mandatory spending is Medicare and Social Security. And I carved them out a little bit because they are big government spending programs, but we've put some money into it. And a lot of people get hung up that, well, I've paid for that. Well, in reality, we are paying for it while we're working, but we're not putting enough money into it. So actually the cost is more than what we're putting into it. And, just take Medicare, for example. A typical person, 65 years old now, would have put in $170,000 during their working career. But they're going to they're going to spend $440,000 in medical care while they're retired. And so, that discrepancy just doesn't work.
So why are we putting less into it? Just we have a shrinking workforce, or we're just not paying enough?
Because that's the calculation rate of what the withholding on the payroll tax is.
Wow.
And so, we've got to go back and revisit what's our whole intent for that program. Same thing with Social Security. Social Security was going under. In terms of not having enough money collected in the 1980s. And the Greenspan Commission was created by President Reagan and Speaker Tip O'Neill. And basically their focus was, let's look at what we contribute, raise the minimum or the full retirement age for folks, and raise the income level that's being assessed against Social Security. And over time, it didn't affect anybody that was retired. It didn't affect anybody that was in their 50s about to retire, but it allowed the program to stay live so that younger workers could still have a Social Security that they could rely on. If we don't do something to Social Security by the year 2034, which is a long way away, but it's going to come here faster than we know.
Before I retire,
Social Security recipients will have to take 75 cents on the dollar, and that's a sad thing that we have a program at that's run by the federal government, and it ought to be operational. We ought to make sure that it works for people.
Is there any talks? I know we talked about it before, way back when years ago. Is there any talk to still trying to privatize something like that, or try and say at this deadline, someone that's already started to pay into it's going to continue to get it, but the new generation before their workforce starts, let's work on other options to try and deviate away from this?
So I think that would be a good idea to put everything on the table, get a bipartisan working group, whether it's members of Congress, whether it's a separate task force that we set up, and let's talk about it. Let's put all the ideas on the table and talk through that. I think that would be a viable option to include in that mix, and look at making that an optional choice for some folks that may want to do that. So, we talked about a lot about Social Security and what we could do to fix it. But going back to the original budget question you asked, is that's 2/3 of what we spend in our appropriations process is those entitlements. The other 1/3 is what we call discretionary, and so the big things in there: our defense, our health and human services, our interest on the national debt. So if you break it all down, we actually spend about 8% of our total spending on defense, and pretty soon. 8%? On the national 8%. Pretty soon, the interest on the national debt is going to be larger than the defense spending, just because we borrow in so much money.
Why is the military and defense spending not in the mandatory? To me, constitutionally, that says that we should be protecting our nation. That's kind of the number one priority for the federal government. Why is that not a mandatory thing? I don't understand that.
Well, one of the things about mandatory is it happens automatically. I mean, it's going to be that much spending. And I personally think we have too much there. I would rather the system be that I have to go vote every year, and I say I'm going to spend X amount of money on these mandatory programs, or I'm going to raise taxes to do it,
right?
Or I'm going to vote to keep taxes where they are, and take a 2% cut or 1% cut in some spending programs, and then hold me accountable as an elected official for my vote.
Sure.
Right now it just happens undercover darkness. We never have to vote on it. It just happens. And so that's a sad state that, we as elected officials ought to be able to stand up and be open and transparent and say, this is what I'm willing to stand for. This is what I'm going to vote for. And if that's the kind of representative you want, vote for me. If not, vote for somebody else.
That bugs me. Especially with that military spending. It drives me nuts. And the fact that the left doesn't see it, and they're like, oh, we need to stop making bombs and start making brownies for kids. And it drives me nuts. We got a few minutes left here. We got about 2 minutes before we have to let you go. But let's talk about an issue. And again, if Facebook cuts us off here, then you know why. But the stories that have been coming out slowly but surely. Rudy Giuliani came out with a video, TV interview a couple days ago, releasing thousands of emails, thousands of pictures of Hunter Biden involved with Russia, involved with China, the wire transfers that are confirmed, the knowing that Joe Biden was aware of all this and met with the Russians as well after he denied it blatantly on the debate stage a few weeks ago. I mean, is this as big of news as what we're making it out to be? The fact that they knew about the setting up of the collusion conspiracy against President Trump. There was involvement with the Democrats, including the Bidens, in this. And is this going to affect the election in any way?
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more as the facts come out. So there's been discussion for years. Democrats are trying to downplay it, say, oh, that's old news. But in reality, the truth was being hidden. And so if you just take, Hunter Biden and his involvement, he obviously was given a cushy job by Burisma because he was this vice president's son. Some of the newest emails that have come out have talked about introducing the Burisma officials to the vice president, Vice President Biden then. And so, it's one of these things that's becoming more and more apparent that there was a lot of questionable things that were going on that should not have been happening, particularly as it affects a higher level of government and some of the decisions and some of the pros and cons and what was the true relationship between the United States and Ukraine back during the Obama administration. And then you look forward from that and you look beyond that with the Hillary Clinton and the stories that were made up out of the Hillary Clinton campaign that were targeted towards the Trump campaign in 2016. Mm-hmm. And so the truth's coming out now, all of these emails that the CIA director, Brennan at the time, knew and briefed President Obama that the Clinton campaign had started this process to create a whisper campaign against the President Trump, and talking about his alleged involvement with the Russians, and the FBI didn't do anything about it. In fact, with all their investigations, Strzok and Comey knew about it. Yeah. They were part of that briefing, and so it's sad that information was hidden from the American people for so long.
Yeah, and it's wild. We'll see if it affects the election or not. I know that we already have a lot of early voting happening all over the nation, so we'll see if it has any impact or not. Congressman Ron Estes from the 4th District here in Kansas, thank you for what you do, my friend. Keep up the fight. Good luck on your campaign. We're going to talk again here real soon.
Great. Thank you, Eddie.
Hey, always a pleasure. One more segment coming up here on a Thursday. We got lots more to get to here on The Voice of Reason. Stay right here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station.
We're here for you.
Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the voice of reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yes, you are. Welcome back into the program. Just a few minutes left here on the show for a Thursday. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Radio, TV, live streaming, podcasting. Doesn't matter. Thanks again to Congressman Ron Estes. He's great, isn't he? Love that guy. He's a great friend. So it's funny, when we started our radio career about 7 years ago, he was actually, when I first moved to Kansas 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was now, he was actually running for the Kansas state treasurer's position for the first time. And we had him on the program all the way back then. And then years later, we hadn't talked to him for years when he ran for the congressional seat here in this district. I was here in Wichita. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. Then he came back on, and we clicked again and remembered who I was, and bigger market, bigger radio station. So we've had him on since then. He's a great guy. He's a great personal friend. We love him to death. He's fighting hard, and we appreciate everything that he, along with all the other Republicans, do. And we only scheduled him for a half an hour today, and I said, Congressman, can you stick over one more segment with us, because we're right in the middle of so many great things, and he was able to do so. So it was awesome. So we appreciate that very much. If you're watching the Facebook Live, let's see, better lighting. Oh, you like this? I don't know, man. I think it's a little too bright in here. We did that just because we had the guest rather than just the lights that were beaming on me that I usually try and do, but it is a little dark. I don't know. It's a little, it kind of glares a little bit at least. And I swear I may be 32 now, but I'm not losing all my hair yet. So I got a little bit of a glare going on the forehead. I just think it's a little bright. So we may have to adjust the lighting again. We are, by the way, working on with the Hooser Media Network. We're working on the home studio to broadcast from the bunker, which we may do on occasion as well. And that will have perfect lighting. So we'll have that up and working and really cool. And we're going to be doing that here probably in the next month or so, which is one of the things we've been working very, very hard with on the back end and behind the scenes. So stay tuned in. We have some really cool projects for you. You are going to be mind blown with all the stuff that we are working on behind the scenes. We just haven't been releasing a whole lot of it here yet. All right, real quickly, let's talk about what's trending here in the nation.
What's trending today?
And I know that we're almost out of time already, so I want to get to as much of this as possible. Now, I've been holding off talking about this story. I've been watching it. I've been monitoring it. I've been paying attention to it. People have been sending me things every day on it. I've been waiting to talk about it because, as you know, being the voice of reason, we talk about reason, facts, and not quote-unquote conspiracies, which I entertain conspiracies. I love conspiracies, but I'm not going to talk about them in a factual manner until we actually have documented proof. Well, it's here. It's here, and the whole Hunter Biden issue is coming out more and more every single day. Now we have a legit story from the New York Post that was banned on Facebook, banned on Twitter, to the point to where the U.S. Senate committee had to send a letter to each of those companies and say, don't block this. This is not fake news. This is not a conspiracy. It's actual legit documentation, and you cannot block something like this. Yeah, a U.S. Senate committee had to send a letter to the Facebook and CEO of Facebook and Twitter because of this. Because why? They locked Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany's Twitter account for sharing it. They almost locked President Donald Trump's tweets for talking about something like this. And Donald Trump actually just commented a little bit ago about how kudos to the New York Post for actually running a story like that. So here's what's going on if you haven't been following this or you're not quite sure what's really going on. When it comes to the conspiracy of Russian collusion with Trump, which the Democrats have been running on for a very obviously for the last 4 years, and accusing him of, to the point to where they even impeached him in the House of Representatives because of this. It was all fabricated. Now, we knew this, but we didn't have any documentation or evidence or proof of this, but it was fabricated. No collusion happened in any way, shape, or form. Now we're starting to see the evidence pop up. We have Hillary's emails that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo commented on, saying that he has the emails proving this. We have Rudy Giuliani now having pictures and emails from Hunter Biden that proves that he received millions of dollars from Burisma and from Russia, that he got money from China, that he did connect his father, the vice president at the time, with Russia and all these individuals, and that they had set all of this up in order to try and bring down President Trump because they were desperate for him to not be in office because Hillary Clinton made it as a distraction from her private server email issue and all the scandals that she was involved in. Now, again, very conspiratorial, right? And even the Democrats made memes. Oh, do you think there's some crazy mass conspiracy where the entire government's out to get Trump? Or do you just think that he's just a bad guy and that he's dirty and this and that and the other? Well, come to find out, guess what? There's a big conspiracy in the government to actually make that happen. We're starting to see the videos. We're starting to see the emails. We're starting to see the pictures. Rudy Giuliani said that he's going to be releasing a lot of these over the next few days. The people that are actually reporting this are getting blocked on social media, saying that it's quote-unquote fake news, and it's only going to get worse from there. Is this the big October surprise that's been coming? I'm waiting for Donald Trump to send the arrest order for Joe Biden for the committing of treason because of all these acts, and knowing what was going on with trying to link a private citizen to monitor them, censor them, and link them to a foreign government in order to make them look bad while they run for public office. It's an act of treason, and a lot of people are going to get in trouble for this. and it's going to happen soon. I don't know when. I don't know how. The media is going to try to ignore it, but until then, we need to stay vigilant and actually be aware of what's going on. Until then, everybody have a great Thursday. Back at it tomorrow. We have a big show lined up for you to wrap up the week. It's the Voice of Reason. Have a great Thursday evening. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.